Good evening. Welcome to the City Council meeting, where we have a declaration of a quorum. All members present except for Ms. Myers. We will excuse her this evening. Please join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, good evening and welcome, everyone. Ms. Smith, any changes to the agenda this evening? All right. First up on our agenda, I see Mr. Bacon sitting back there. It's kind of dark back there. We got lights out, or why does it look so dark back there? He's sitting in the shadows. Are you trying to hide from us?
Yeah. I'm just testing you out, seeing how
Checking my vision.
checking those vision and see if that really works.
Nice. Good to see you this evening, Mr. Bacon.
Well, thanks.
How's it going?
Nice to see everybody as well. Well, springtime is upon us. We're seeing the warm weather, and with that comes a lot of activity. We are processing our numbers for our summer programs that we'll be offering. We're hoping to have our secondary numbers next week established. And right now we do have our elementary numbers, and we have over 800 students that have signed up to participate in our summer program, and over 160 kinders for our kindergarten camp. So we're seeing a lot of interest, and we're excited about being able to provide that opportunity for our kids. Also, upcoming events, we've got Memorial Day, just as a noteworthy date. There'll be no school on the 27th in observance of Memorial Day. We're also kicking off our second grade swim lessons this week, and it's just another opportunity to express and show the great partnership between the city and the school district to be able to provide that resource to our families, especially with being so near to the Columbia River. I could go on and list out all of the activities that are happening, but events linked on there on that district webpage there. We do have quite a bit of activity going on this week with our students who are participating in postseason play. This week we have soccer, softball, and lacrosse all involved, and we have golf and track as well happening in the near future. So kids are pretty busy being involved. We also will be on the 1st of June, June 3rd, and June 4th, we'll be welcoming our incoming 8th graders. We call that our 9th grade welcome at the high school, where in the evening families are invited to come into the high school and with their students and learn about what high school is going to look like for those freshman students. I get to participate in that. Finally, last one, here we go. Also, as speaking of that, we got one going out too. We're busy. We got scholarship night on the 28th and the main commons for high school. We'll also have our senior celebration walk parade on May 31st at 7 p.m. It'll begin in Kinnison. And it's been a very positive tradition that we've been able to keep going here the last couple of years. And then graduation will be at the Toyota Center on June 6th at 7 p.m. Last day for students is June 11th. And that is going to wrap up 23-24.
Finished?
I am.
Thank you, Mr. Bacon. So the lacrosse team, they still undefeated?
They are 20-0.
Impressive.
So they got Auburn Riverside. They beat them just this last weekend, and then head up to Bellevue.
Right on. So how close are they getting to like state?
Well, at that part, I'm not sure. They're close. I believe there's two more games potentially 2 more games after this one.
Very good.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, congratulations to all the student athletes that are going on to play in state playoffs. And exciting summer for the kids. Good to see the participation. A couple years ago, you guys went to kind of more of a enjoyment versus remediation. Exploratory. That's what the word was.
Yeah.
And so is that the continued?
That remains our focus. So our elementary will remain catch up on credits and those types of things. Because that's really, we're getting into the crunch time, getting kids, and kids are a little more mobile when they're in the secondary level. So elementary kids don't get a choice. Mom and dad say you're going. So
Excellent. How many graduates you got this year?
we are I'll say approximately 320 in that range. That
Up or
should
down?
walk across that stage. So
Is that up or down?
it fluctuates. I think this class might be down just a little bit from last year's, but we've got 2 more big ones coming through.
Any other questions for Mr. Bacon? Sure.
With the summer school, well, a lot of parents might think that their kids are doing really good. So does the schools make suggestions to parents like, okay, your child is maybe a little behind in math, and in summer school would help them for a couple of weeks or something like that?
So at the elementary level, those conversations occurred through conferences and over the course of the school year. And again, our summer program is opened up to all students, 100%. So we can encourage, and there's times, I can't say 100% that we encourage every student, we need you here to work on these types of things. Because again, we're really focusing on that exploratory opportunities to experience new things. And we focus a lot on field trips and getting out to see what's going on in our community.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions, council? Yes, Mr. McCarthy.
Yes, I just want to issue Mr. Bacon congratulations. I understand it. Also, you're the new incoming president-elect for Kiwanis in Hermiston, so I just want to give you a little bit of applause for that.
Why, thank you. That's quite,
Congratulations.
yes, thank you.
Congratulations,
Thank
right,
you.
Byron?
Yes, lucky day.
For those of you in the audience, Byron is our current Rotary president, so,
Oh.
yeah, it's a lot of work, a lot of work. So congratulations, Mr. Bacon.
Right.
Any other comments, questions? Always good to see you.
All right, you as well. Have a great evening. Thank you.
Okay, next up, Stepping Stones Alliance, Jesselyn Cole, I see you sitting out there. Welcome.
You. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. So Lily is going to be scrolling through to be here in case you have questions as we kind of just look through this. I'm not going to read line by line, but same information that we give you quarterly. See if there's anything that stands out to you. We did get moved on site. We gave ourselves 12 hours from saying goodbye, have a good day. And we made it in 11 hours and welcomed guests at the new location that same night. So lots of preparation and logistic work went into that, but we have not missed a single night. So we're pretty proud of that. We are still working through building inspections for Navigation Center and the individual shelter units. So those are not part of our programming yet. Building inspector, state fire marshal, and fire chief Grant were out there today, all trying to get on the same page with what that looks like. So there is progress. And even just looking at these site photos, there are changes daily. They were working on more fencing today, as well as another, so a 60-foot concrete pad is going along the grass area to create our outdoor common space. So we'll have picnic tables and outdoor kitchen for the members in the individual shelter units to use. I'm going to stop there and see if there are any questions.
Thanks, Jesselyn. Any expected move-in date for the shelters and the Navigation Center?
It's really in the hands of the building inspector.
That's the state building.
No, City of Umatilla.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's not Chuck. Not Chuck anymore, huh? The asphalt that's to the, I guess, east in the back, that's parking for overnight vehicles, or what is that designed for?
Eventually, that is the plan,
Okay.
but we're trying to go step by step. So first will be Navigation Center and the individual shelter units, and then we're looking at potentially having a safe parking program.
And then the last question I have for you is the sleep center's been open the entire time,
Mhm.
right? Yeah.
Mhm.
I've had lots of conversations out with folks in community, and they were confused that maybe
For 500 consecutive nights at this point.
awesome.
Yeah.
And I guess one more last question. How are we doing budget-wise? Were you prepared to give that tonight, or
I was.
Dave usually come and do that?
Yeah, I mean, we reviewed that with our advisory committee and the last report he gave was that it's on track. There's been some changes in security expenses and we're going to try to adjust that going into the new fiscal year, but making it through this year. And so, yeah, it's on track. Again, we're trying to kind of determine what the baseline costs are, and we're finding we guessed well on some and we didn't guess well on others. Is that pretty accurate?
That's accurate. And so the fortunate thing is Stepping Stones came with the ARPA funds, the American Rescue Plan funds, and those have to be spent by the end of June. And we still have a little bit of that left. So that's going to finish up paying for the capital improvements that we've done out there, which means a lot of the pilot funds for operations are still there and available. And so I was at Umatillas City Council last week, and I believe Dave said we can make it through fiscal year 2025 with those funds still intact. And we're working with the grant writers that City of Umatilla works with to seek out the HUD grants and the higher dollar grants. And I work on the smaller ones.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, hold Counselor Dufloth and City Manager Stockdale to that 2025 number. I saw him shaking his head back there. How about other questions from the council of Jesselyn? Yes, Councilman.
Hi, Jackie.
I would like to know, do the huts have air conditioner in them or fans or anything?
They do not have air conditioning, but they have the window and the door, so you can get the cross flow. And hopefully they aren't staying, they're just sleeping there and not spending all day in the shelter unit, so.
Because it's starting to get hot too soon.
Mhm.
So I was just wondering, if there's a need for some, will the staff buy them for the huts or?
They're such small units, I don't know that it would.
Could also be used as a cooling shelter.
Well, and we have, yes, and we have the navigation center that's open during the day when they are there anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Other questions, Council? Thank you, Jesselyn.
Thank you.
All right, we've got a couple proclamations again this evening, and I'm going to read each one. The first one up is Inland Northwest Musicians Proclamation. Whereas Inland Northwest Musicians was founded in 1999 on 5 core beliefs. Music is for everyone. Audiences everywhere deserve to experience live performances, the world's greatest music. All musicians deserve to develop their talent. Music is a lifelong pursuit that contributes to health and well-being, and a regional arts organization should truly represent and serve the region. And whereas Inland Northwest Musicians was formed with a vision to create a symphony orchestra and symphonic choral organization that was uniquely driven by the values and beliefs upon which it was founded. And whereas Inland Northwest Musicians is a devoted supporter of youth music instruction, both in and outside of school settings, as well as aiding less advanced musicians of all ages by creating a youth and preparatory orchestra. And whereas Inland Northwest Musicians have performed more than 500 free concerts in 50 communities and widely varied venues, including schools, churches, community centers, prisons, and outdoor settings, as well as helping communities celebrate countless milestones and performing for underserved populations throughout Northeast Oregon and Southwest Washington. Whereas Inland Northwest Musicians was one of the first organizations in Oregon to receive funding from the Oregon Cultural Trust. And whereas Inland Northwest Musicians have significantly collaborated with the city of Hermiston by housing their grand piano at the Hermiston Community Center and establishing their center of operations in the city of Hermiston for over 15 years. And now, therefore, I, Dr. Dave Drotzman, Mayor of Hermiston, Oregon, do hereby proclaim the inspiring contributions to the arts that Inland Northwest musicians have given to the community, encourage all to honor and celebrate the 25th anniversary of its founding, signed this day, May 13th, 2024, by me. Anyone here this evening from Inland?
They were not able to. They have actually, one of their groups rehearses on Monday evenings, so their leadership.
Well, they could have
wasn't
came
able
here and rehearsed. Yeah, good. All right, next up, it's a biggie. National Police Week, May 12th through 18th, 2024. To recognize National Police Week 2024 and to honor those currently serving, those retired from service, and the service and sacrifice of law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty while protecting our communities and safeguarding our democracy. Whereas there are approximately 900,000 law enforcement officers serving in communities across the United States, including the 33 sworn and 8 non-sworn members of the Hermiston Police Department. Whereas on average, 55,000 assaults against law enforcement officers are reported each year, resulting in approximately 15,000 injuries. Whereas since the first recorded death in 1786, just over 25,000 law enforcement officers in the United States have made the ultimate sacrifice and been killed in the line of duty, including one member of the Hermiston Police Department, Ronald G. Kilby, end of watch, Thursday, October 8th, 1959. Whereas the names of these dedicated public servants are engraved on the walls of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C., whereas 124 new names of fallen heroes will be added to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial. Now therefore, be it resolved, the City of Hermiston formally designates May 12th through 18th, 2024 as National Police Week and publicly salutes the service of law enforcement officers in our community and all communities across the nation, signed this 13th day of May, 2024 by me. Well, thank you, Chief. Thank you to the members of your organization for their service and commitment to public safety in our community. We find, I think all of us would agree, one of our primary and probably foremost jobs is to provide public safety. And you guys have done an exceptional service to our community and our residents, and please pass that along, how much we appreciate them and their dedication to our community. Did you want to say anything? Always long on words, Chief Hermiston. All right. Last proclamation, National Cities, Towns, and Villages Month proclamation. Whereas the National League of Cities was founded in 1924 in Lawrence, Kansas as the American Municipal Association by state municipal leagues seeking more coordination and national representation of cities, towns, and villages representing municipal governments throughout the United States, representing the interest of more than 19,000 cities, towns, and villages across the country. Whereas today, the National League of Cities works in partnership with 49 state municipal leagues across the country to strengthen local leadership, drive innovation, and influence the federal policies that impact local programs and operations. Whereas the City of Hermiston is a proud member of the National League of Cities and has benefited from the organization's research, technical expertise, federal advocacy, and opportunities to learn from other local governments. Whereas local governments are the bedrock of American democracy, providing 336 million residents with the most accountable, responsive, inclusive, ethical, and transparent government in the world. Whereas from the nation's smallest villages to the largest cities, America's local governments have been essential in transforming the United States of America into the greatest, most influential nation in world history. Whereas Hermiston was first incorporated in 1907 and is proudly served today by Mayor Dr. Dave Drotzman, Council President Doug Primer, and Councilors Rod Hardin, Jackie Myers, Maria Duran, Jackie Linton, Nancy Peterson, Roy Barone, and David McCarthy, and a municipal workforce of 115 dedicated public servants. Now therefore, I, Dr. Dave Drotzman, Mayor of Hermiston, Oregon, do hereby proclaim May 2024 as National Cities, Towns, and Villages Month in celebration of America's local governments and the National League of Cities Historic Centennial Anniversary. Signed by me, this date, May 13th, 2024. Congratulations to the NLC. I didn't know it was their 100th year. So, the League of Cities, who is our state representative, Oregon League of Cities, will celebrate its 100th year next year. So, excellent. Yeah. What's that? Tampa Bay, yeah. Yeah. Oregon League of Cities isn't going to be in Florida. Wishful thinking, huh?
That might be a little difficult to explain.
It's actually going to be in Portland. And Portland was one of the first founding members of the League of Oregon Cities. So going back to Portland. Okay. On to first opportunity for citizen input on non-agenda items. So if there are people here in the audience who would like your comments to me and limit them to less than 5 minutes. Come on up.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I've, our family has lived on Moore Street since 1991, and I presently reside at 145 West Moore Avenue in Hermiston.
Bruce, I know your name, but you got to state it for the record.
Pardon me?
I know your name, but you have to state it for the record.
Sorry, Bruce Wilcox. At any rate, I think we have a safety issue on Moore that has kind of been bugging me, and I talk with my walking buddies and they say, you're turning into a grumpy old man and you just need to relax and let it go, but I can't do that. I'm referring to the bus traffic that we get on Moore. I've spoke with Mark Morgan about it, and he's been helpful, but I think I need more help from the council and the chair to work with Hart or Kayak to keep those buses off our street. It's not safe. Our street is narrow. We've got housing on both sides of the street. I suggested to them that we have them switch to a route that would take them down Highland Avenue, which only has residents on one side of the street and is much, much wider than Moore. They said they would have to drive a bus down there and see how much that would impact their route. It's 6 blocks difference. If they were to come, they usually come from the Safeway Plaza, come down first. They went to Highland and then back up 7th. But at any rate, I was successful by one contact with the superintendent of Hermiston Public Schools in getting school bus traffic off our street. I sent a letter recently. I haven't heard, but sometimes those things get lost in the shuffle. I just would like to know what can be done. Hart says that they review their routes. I think it's in July. I've been waiting since August of last year for them to consider changing their route. I don't know what I need to do. I need your help. Do I need to do a petition? I just don't think there should be bus traffic on Moore Avenue.
So Byron, can we follow up with Bruce, get him a response?
Yes, we will.
Okay. Thank you.
Any questions? It used to be a very quiet neighborhood.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
It's growing. Community is growing. You're right. Thank you, Bruce. Yeah. Okay, others? Sorry if you're not, sorry if you don't live in Hermiston, you can't speak.
I know. Darren Duffloth, 160 Rio Cinda Street in Umatilla. Thank you for allowing me to come in and say hi to everybody. My wife and I own the Bridge, our family owns the Bridge Bistro in Umatilla. And I just wanted to let everybody know that we are now opening a place here in town. It's going to be called Keg and Cork. It's going to be on 4th and Main, and my daughter within the building is doing a coffee shop as well. So we'll have Maple Moose and Keg and Cork, and we're going to be opening up the 6th of June. We're finalizing times with the chamber and getting all of that stuff. I know with the graduation, it's going to be a little tricky, but we're going to make it work. And it's the same night as the downtown district, so we're excited with that too. So a little bit of it, but I wanted to invite you guys all down to come down to our grand opening. We would love to see everybody. I know some of you, I know a lot of the staff too, so we're excited about being here, and I'm all about, being a part of the community. As most of you guys know, I'm a city councilman in Umatilla, and we've been there since forever. So anyway. Excited.
What time's the grand opening?
Well, we're trying to narrow it down. We're thinking 4:30, 5 o'clock, somewhere around there.
What time's first Thursday kickoff?
4, I think, isn't it? 4 to 6,
Okay,
something like that.
4 to 6-ish. Okay.
So we're
Perfect.
trying to narrow down what'd be best, if people want to stop by and see the place. We'll open at 6 o'clock in the morning on that Thursday, but the ribbon cutting ceremony will be later in the evening. So we're excited. We have Amy and Slade Smith who's on board with us, and then our daughter Presley and Trevor, her fiance. So it's a very family oriented, and it's going to be amazing. You guys will really enjoy it. The finishing touches are just fantastic. So
So is Kagan Cork a bar only, or is it a restaurant bar? What is it?
sure. So we will have food available, and it is family friendly, so you can bring your family in, and that's not a problem. And we'll have retail stuff as well. So we'll be able to sell bottles of wine or whatever you would like, to take with you. And of course, the coffee and stuff will be available as well. So we will have a food menu available. Yes,
Excellent.
it's gonna be great.
All right.
Any questions?
Congratulations.
Thank
Welcome
you.
to town.
We're excited.
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
be fun.
Good to have you. Always good to have another restaurant. That's probably our number one request
Yep.
for our community is
And it's
more
gonna,
entrepreneurs, especially local folks, right? Taking the risk, opening up a small business. So good to see it.
thank you, thank
Yeah,
you. And it's gonna be
congratulations.
different because we're gonna have, like I said, charcuterie boards, cheese and wine, and it's just gonna be a nice intimate space where people can just come in and enjoy. And same with the coffee shop in the morning. It's more of a sit down and enjoy yourself. We do have a walk-up window, but obviously right there, we don't have the drive-through, but it's more geared towards somebody sitting down. You want to have a coffee with a friend or whoever. You want to have a business meeting, quaint, and you can have internet service, and it's just nice space. So it'll be fun.
Right
And then I can come back in 6 months and ask about parking.
You're gonna build some? Is that what you're
Sure,
suggesting?
why not?
2 layers?
Up is always a-
Vertical
Up is always good.
or down?
Thank you again, everybody. Have a wonderful.
Thanks,
evening.
Darren. Congratulations. Others? Okay. So we're going to move on to the consent agenda, items A through D. Do we need to pull? Okay, seeing none. Any public comment, consent agenda items A through D? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve or accept consent agenda items A through D?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Counselor Duran, seconded by Counselor Harden, that we accept the consent agenda items A through D as presented. Roll call.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Motion passes unanimously, 7-0. Did the microphone sound light tonight?
Kind of got an echo too.
Yes.
Here today, and obviously they've been.
One of these years, we'll get this system figured out.
But at least we don't have some feedback coming through right now.
True,
That was
very
what
true.
was happening earlier, so.
All right, resolutions number 2321, renewal of the IGA with the city of Pendleton. Mr. Smith?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. So this, we originally adopted an agreement with the city of Pendleton on October 23rd of 2023. They were looking initially for a shorter term agreement, I think wanting to explore some things. They're one of the few clients we have that actually have their own city staff as well, and so wanted to see how that would work with their existing staff. Now they have agreed to renew and increase their contract, not in hours, but just kind of an inflationary increase from what we had started with. And that it also implements a inflationary increase each year for the years that it renews into the future. So the monthly hours is or 24 hours a week, and then that translates to $12,875 per month and $154,500 per year. And so overall, I think they're pleased with the service, and so we're happy to continue this agreement with them. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So when we have a contract with a community that's, they aren't a significant distance away, but like Boardman or Pendleton, is drive time included in that, or how does that work out?
We haven't, most of the time, just based on where our staff lives, a lot of times they'll just go to work there and then do their work there, or, we still do a lot of remote work on, servers and so forth. So, we don't often charge the hourly because we're just not traveling. That's not part of the work day. Typically, it's where they start work and end work.
Okay, might be something we have to look at. The reason I say that is my IT guy comes from Pendleton and I get charged for the drive time, so.
Well, they're paying, that time, let's say somebody had to respond to Hetner for a Morrow County contract, that time is kind of allocated to their contract when we track hours.
Okay.
So we're doing that and keeping track of how much we're spending on each
Interview.
client.
Okay. So, and they're not increasing their drive or their hours. So
Not
it's
at
been
this
working
point.
out this last year for them with the current hours that they're using.
That's correct.
Other questions, Council?
Is
Any-
there actually a copy of the IGA?
I thought we had included it. I forgot.
There's a resolution and a staff report, but no IGA.
Yeah. Yeah. We were waiting for the signed copy. It didn't get here till today, so we can, these are the provisions that changed, but that I can give you the copy. Do you have it in your email that you forward? Okay. So Lily will send it to you right now.
Okay.
Well, let's table that and come back for the resolution 2321. Is council okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. Resolution number 2322, T-Hanger Omnibus Grant Application Authorization. Mr. Smith.
Yeah, Mr. Morgan, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this resolution was really an opportunity for me to use the word omnibus in our resolution. So you're probably all getting tired of me bringing this project back to the council. This is the same project we've been working on for quite a while, where we're going to be T-hangers. We've already brought to you the contract to construct the taxi lanes in there and brought to you the contract to construct the building itself. In developing this project for a number of reasons, but mainly in order to maximize the grant revenue that we could chase down, we broke the project into multiple different phases, the taxi lanes and the vertical construction of the building. But then from there, our partners at the federal government have made it a little bit more challenging in how they're providing us our funding. Part of that comes from the federal bipartisan infrastructure law funding that we have received. That comes to us in tranches over the course of 5 years. So we can receive 3 of those 5 years already. They make us apply for those funds, even though they've already been allocated to us through the FAA. So whenever we apply for funds through the FAA, I have to bring those back to the council. Additionally, the city has $150,000 per year of what we call AIP grant funds that again are allocated to us, but we have to go through the actual grant application process when we receive those funds. So this request ultimately lines out all of those grant revenues that we have hanging out there that have already been allocated to us, so that I don't have to come back and request your authorization to submit that application in the future. So you can see how that all lines out the revenues coming up, and I'd stand for any questions.
Questions, Council? Okay. Any public comment on resolution 2322? Okay, seeing none, can I get a motion to adopt resolution number 2322 and lay it upon the record?
So moved.
It's been moved by Councilor McCarthy, seconded by Councilor Primer, that we adopt resolution 2322 and lay it upon the record. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Do we have the other resolution? We've seen it?
It's been received.
Okay. Do you guys want time to review it? Is there any public comment on, we're going to go back to resolution 2321, renewal of IGA with the city of Hermiston for IT services. Any public comment on resolution 2321? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve resolution 2321?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Councilor McCarthy, second by Councilor Harden, that we adopt. Sorry. That we, yes, adopt resolution 2321 and lay it upon the record. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Motion passes unanimously, 7-0. Mobile vendor regulations update, Mr. Smith.
Yes, members of the council, Mayor, Mr. Mayor. Last meeting, you received testimony from Maria Villagana in her frustrations about trying to establish a food truck within the city, based on our current scheme for regulations. Now, typically, we don't typically bring back a verbal report on things like that, but because planning staff receives upwards of 10 requests in a week's time, sometimes about where can I locate a food truck, what are the regulations, those types of things. We felt like we should just bring back kind of a summary of her concerns, but also the other concerns that we hear from the public related to locating a mobile food vending business. So her primary, she had concerns about the utility connections that are required because a site would need to have water, sewer, and electric. But also, probably the main one that we kind of discussed with her is the spacing. So the current requirement is for a mobile food business, it has to be 400 feet from a brick and mortar restaurant as well as any other food truck. And so, and that is not just from the actual truck or the building, it's from the corner, the closest property corners of each of those. So as you'll see in the maps that Mr. Spencer put together, particularly along our highest traffic areas, there's really no more location. And just because I know some of the council weren't, maybe aren't as familiar with kind of some of the details, I'm just going to summarize some of the other requirements and then open it up for, discussion and questions. So first, there are 3 different levels of licensing, and the one that she was most interested in discussing was an annual license. We have 6 of those available. There's also a 90-day license or a lunch truck license, and both of those 2 have a little bit lighter requirements, though there still are some requirements, but they're not as restrictive. And no one's been interested in getting one of those licenses up to this point. So some of the other requirements, there has to be 3 paved parking spaces with the location. It has to be located on a paved surface, and it has to be 20 feet from any street or property line. And the hours of operation are limited from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. The truck must leave the premises each night. There's no awnings or seating is supposed to be provided. And there has to be a trash can, and electrical service can't be with a cord longer than 10 feet. So you need to be close to the source. And then there was a copy of our kind of a handout that we give out to those that are interested that was in your packet that might touch on a few other requirements. So we the way we currently, the vendors we license are those that require a health department license. And so there's class 2, 3, and 4. And that's any vendor who prepares or assembles food. So we've had some questions related to the selling of fruit, that because it's not prepared, that doesn't fall under our mobile vendor licensing. As long as they have permission from a property owner, they're allowed to do that without any license from us. Now, there are some who do set up on right-of-way, which is not allowed, but that's the only. We also, there's some distinction in who regulates restaurants versus what we're going to call delis or bakeries. So, so gas station delis, bakeries are regulated by the Department of Agriculture and not the Health Department. So we don't count those when we are doing some of these calculations. Let's see. And then I mentioned the maps, and we took a look at the 400-foot and what does that look like? And then was it 100 feet, the other one? Yeah. And so the other one was just what would it look like if you reduce that down to 100 feet? You know, and then also we wanted to just mention, since the implementation of these requirements, we have established the food pod, which was not there before when the initial ordinance was instituted. And so, you know, that one, we installed all the utilities, and Parks and Rec manages that property using an on-site manager who helps coordinate getting food trucks and keeping all the slots filled there. And then the trucks on public land are not, they're not required to have a license, so they don't count in those 6 that we allocate across the city. The only other piece I wanted to highlight before we open to discussion is just, you know, I think we, the city, by establishing the food pod, have shown that that's a viable way to kind of get a number of food trucks operational. And just kind of anecdotally, staff has seen this transfer into the private sector in a number of different places where, you know, somebody owns some property and maybe they establish a location where they're providing the drinks, and then they have a variety of food trucks surrounding that, and then are able to, you know, offer people a number of choices, and then, but still a viable business model from the owner standpoint. And then it seems to work well for the food trucks as well. You know, we haven't seen that kind of pop up here in Hermiston, but that's another option for, as we talk about trying to encourage more food trucks, would be somebody establishing kind of a private. I think those are the main points we wanted to highlight, but open to discussion. We just wanted to kind of bring to you the things we're hearing, staff's hearing from people, and if council wanted to direct us to look into making some changes or talking about that, bring it back at a future meeting where, you know, I know this notice probably wouldn't have caught the attention of other, you know, restaurant owners or somebody who'd be interested in this topic. But doing something like that, we could get the word out and make sure that people who are interested would be able to participate in any future discussions, if that's the direction the council wanted to go.
Mr. Smith, are all 6 of the licenses currently allocated?
Clint, do you?
At this time, only 3 of the 6 are allocated.
And mostly because of this limitation on being able to find a spot.
Mhm.
I mean, they can't find a spot that has enough traffic to feel like it justifies it.
I go to some out-of-the-way places for a food truck.
Yeah,
I mean, there's some that are in like.
But I mean, that's the
spots.
entrepreneur having to take a risk, you know, so.
Why 400 to 100? Why not 400?
I think that was just to show the contrast. It wasn't necessarily that that would be our recommendation, but just to see what that difference would look like if you went from 400 to 100.
Okay.
Could it be 200?
Wasn't your recommendation?
No,
Okay.
we just wanted to show a contrast.
At 200, you still have almost all of Highway 395 blacked out.
So I guess the follow up on that comment, Clint, is your intention to try and make 395 more accessible to food truck?
That's, to me, that is entirely a policy question for the city council. Right now, 395 is blacked out, but as you see from the maps, there is a very large amount of commercially zoned land that is available, as you're saying, if someone was wanting to be entrepreneurial, set up out, near Ranch and Home or Highway 207, Highland, all of those areas are available. I don't know how cooperative the owners are, and I don't know even if we were to eliminate the spacing that they would still find a cooperative owner.
Right. Good point. Mr. McCarthy, I saw your hand up.
I'm just curious if there's any history as, or notes that can be given into the when it was made.
Clint, you've had more of that history.
At the time, it was really seen by the council as being something to make sure that there wasn't any clusters forming that would really compete with the brick and mortar restaurants. And so by establishing that spacing, it was to make sure that the ones that we had that were built environment and had invested in that cost of opening business weren't facing any undue competition.
Your brick and mortar, so I was around when this happened. Your brick and mortar stores invest a lot in capital infrastructure, water, wastewater, electrical, physical buildings, right? That help develop the character of your town and your community, whereas a food truck is portable. It's there one day, could be gone the next, so there's not a lot of capital investment. So I think it was to protect the actual entrepreneur that's invested in that in community, which they're investing in, is to protect that resource and that asset from having a food truck set up right next door to them and drive their competition out. Yeah, Councilor Primer, I think you were next.
So, in regards to this entrepreneurial option, would they be bound by the 100 or 400 foot? If they, they found a piece of property that was along, on 395, say they, let's just say they bought the Roman Ford property and decided that they wanted to put in their own personal pod, so to speak. Would they be bound by that 400-foot rule?
Go ahead, Clint.
Right now, they would be, that it would require an action of the council to amend the ordinance to accommodate that sort of thing. And yes, that's something that we have discussed as staff, is that right now it's not something that we could accommodate under our code, but because it's a business ordinance, that's a fairly small amendment to accommodate something if someone did want to go the entrepreneurial route.
Okay.
Councilor Brown.
I appreciate Councilor McCarthy's question. I too was curious as to where the 400 feet came from, whether it was something that was purposeful, or I guess whether it was something emotionally bound. And to me, time that they did. But these mobile food vendors are also entrepreneurs. They're still businesses as well. And so a lot of, maybe the businesses that we see today, and I definitely know one business that started as a food vendor and eventually made its way to brick and mortar. And so the way I see it, I certainly would appreciate the 100 feet because that at least gives some space. But to be honest, I'm also just even thinking about why we even have 100 feet in the first place, or why we even have a radius in the first place. I personally wouldn't be upset if they sat out next to like a McDonald's or a Burger King. I can see a little bit more like the mom and pop shops, but not so much, to be honest, like the bigger shops. I'd rather the small entrepreneur come in, do that business, and it's still a lot of work. These people still have to move their carts at the end of the day. So maybe we don't see a lot of maybe benefit on tax rolls, but these people are still doing a lot of work. As long as I think we follow the regulations that we have, you know, we want it clean, we don't want it junky, we don't want our town to look like bad, but at the same time, we have regulations. I don't see why we even should have a 400-foot radius. I think either consider 100 feet or nothing, and that's kind of why I'm looking at it.
I was looking this way, so Councilor Linton, then I'll come back this way.
Okay, thank you. Well, I like the 400-foot exclusion. I wouldn't want to see 395 or any other part of Hermiston just cluttered with a lot of food trucks. Even though they're a nice area, I like how it's set up with where we have 8 pots over there with food trucks. And if they want to, I don't know, down the road, have something set up somewhere else so that different businesses can have the opportunity that are already established, and not be overrun by so many that everybody's just not making enough to even to survive. Thank you.
I don't know who's next of you two. Councilor Drum?
Thank you. I have a question for you, City Manager, or Clint for that matter. What changes or feedback have the vendors that come in to ask about the provisions, the requirements? Establish their business in town?
Well, I mean, I think the spacing is a big one that we've heard. I think there's probably some concern about access to utilities because they're supposed to have a connection to electric, water, and sewer. And so making that work could be very expensive. But Clint, any others that you could?
To be clear, though, sewer actually is not one the city doesn't allow
Oh,
the
okay.
connection for sewer at all. You have to take your truck away to dump your tanks. But yes, water is, I've been with the health department. Sometimes people are using non-approved hoses. So that was one of the reasons why we prefer them to be self-contained whenever possible so that they're filling up their tanks and not having hoses on the ground or anything at the site. The electrical regulation, 10 feet is really short, and that is pretty hard to meet on a 25-foot truck. It's kind of hard to find a place that'll work, but most of the time it does boil down to the spacing requirement. We'll have vendors come in and, oh, we're looking at, you know, Big Five. Big Five's only let us park there. Oh, well, that's 400 feet from Midway. You're still within the 400 foot at that point. So 400 feet is a lot farther than you think when you're going property line to property line. And that really is what holds up. If you were to go eliminate or a much smaller radius, the city council could also consider just the overall number of licenses to avoid proliferation. You know, right now we have 6. We have 3 that we've issued because that's as many as have been able to find approved sites. And those ones were previously, all of our current trucks were in place when the current adoptions were, or current regulations were adopted. Those of you who are on the council then might remember in 2017, when we adopted these rules, carve out was written into the code for trucks who were already in place. So they didn't necessarily have to meet that 400-foot spacing requirement because they already had a site.
Councilor Peters?
So, when it comes to driving downtown, I think we see a lot more of who Hermiston is when we see individual businesses that are run by individuals and less of the commercial frontage. But I understand, you know, investing in brick and mortar, but that's not to say that those brick and mortar one day invest in a brick and mortar, as we've seen, it can go the other way. My stepmother was raised in the South, so I was raised on, you know, catfish and fried okra. There's a place by the Richland Airport where you can get that. Now, the hub in Kennewick has a truck from that restaurant. So if you've ever been to the hub in Kennewick, it's nothing but basically a mall of food trucks. And a brick and mortar store has one. So I don't see any reason to limit ourselves and limit the citizens from being able to put a more personal face on our city if able. Because, you know, I mean, people talk about the American dream, and it's a lot of those dreams start with that first truck. And that truck turns into a restaurant, and that restaurant turns into Sherry's. And Sherry's turns into a chain. But we got to give people a foothold, a toehold, something. And that's one of the things about being up here. I think it's kind of our job to see if we can help, you know, figure out a way to make the path a little bit more clear if we have the ability within reason.
Councilor McCarthy.
Thank you. I think City Manager Smith had suggested a potential action, a potential option would be to get some feedback from some of the restaurateurs, entrepreneurs, and potential food truck operators. And based on the opinions I'm hearing tonight, that's the direction I personally would like to go before I would make a decision on any action that we would take as a council.
How would you suggest they do that?
I would
Survey?
assume a town hall could also be appropriate.
We could, I mean, what I was more thinking when I stated that earlier was more that if the council had some ideas of how they wanted to change it, putting it on the agenda would draw those interests just because they want to, they're concerned about it.
If I could also, for those counselors who weren't here, when these regulations originally went through, we actually did a series of town halls at the time, soliciting quite a bit of feedback from the brick and mortar as well as the mobile vendors who were in town at the time.
Councilor Plummer?
Yeah, so I we had over that process. It was very long drawn out. There was a lot of derisive thoughts. I understand when people talk about the smaller, the little guy starting up and moving on, but at the same time, we have to look at the overall view, how our city looks. We don't want we want the town to look like our town, not we don't want, I don't see having, food truck down the road. I think having a smaller, having a smaller, setback may be an option, but I don't think that doing away with it completely is a good idea, because we do need to help out the brick and mortar businesses. We need to make sure that existing businesses aren't going to have, your mom, your Midway, that's a mom and pop. That's not a chain. Thank you. And doesn't have, a truck sitting right next to it, taking business away from it. So, I think that there can be a balance, and maybe we need to relook at that. Take another look at that part of it by having these conversations again. I'm not against having more food trucks. I just think we need to look at where we're going to put them and how they're going to operate. When this issue first came out, there was a lot of problems with the way that the food trucks were set up. There were sanitation issues, there were location issues, and that's what pushed the conversation forward, was some of the things that were going on. And maybe we went a little bit too restrictive, I don't know, but I think I think it's something that we could stand to relook at.
I don't know who was first. Councilor Brown?
The way I remember some of those conversations, and that was the first year I joined the city council, and I think that was like one of the big conversations that we had. But I saw it as we were very, very restrictive, and we decided to open to allow some of this business to happen. If I remember correctly, I think we had 3 licenses and we upped up the licenses to 6. So if I remember right, we were trying to be more spirited and allowing more businesses to come into town. And that's why we established the food pod and ultimately upped the licenses to 6 to try to bring in more opportunity from these food carts. Because at least when I came into council, I think that was more of an issue where council had historically been wind, or I guess stifled it, or I guess restricted it, let me say that way. Restricted it because I think there was public perception about how food trucks were. And so when 2017 came around, I think the council started to change and say, we want to open it up actually. We want to allow some more of these businesses in. And so we have the food pod, which has been a great success. But I mean, looking at these restrictions, I still think we were still restrictive at the time. I think council was already doing big steps to be less restrictive, but ultimately you can see in this map, there is no space on 395 whatsoever for any food pod to establish themselves there. And so I think, I mean, there won't be food pod, just because of how even, you know, Mr. Spencer has even mentioned that we have 6. So at most, we could have 3 more. And so it's ultimately up to us, you know, we're gonna get these applications, we're gonna look at where they're gonna go, et cetera. So I just feel like by removing this barrier, we can at least create some opportunity for businesses. And I also don't agree, I guess, with the premise of not allowing more of these, or I guess that these businesses stifle other businesses. I think stifling business is not allowing these businesses to have an opportunity in the first place. And so ultimately, it is we live in a capitalistic world, but I think it's still really important to give people opportunities. And I mean, especially with the cost nowadays, it's really probably hard to open up a business from the very beginning, especially a restaurant where margins are very thin. And so I think just creating opportunity would be great for people that are wanting to open up a business here in Hermiston.
Councilor John.
What would be feasible for the city in order for us what maybe can be agreed upon, where the businesses are not hurting, but those that maybe have been restricted in the past can find a way to have their business established? Is that a possible thing? You mentioned, how can we help get the word out, was your question, was, you know, I know Val sends updates every week to the chamber businesses. Maybe that could also be done. Maybe our local radio station can do a PSA, public service announcement, regarding, you know, a meeting or a town hall meeting, or even a survey, whatever may be the option. You know, if this conversation took place in 2017, a lot of years have gone by where, you know, businesses maybe have come and gone, or maybe people might think differently, or there's possibility of other people that have considered having, you know, a truck, but haven't been able to. So I think that opens up an opportunity to have the discussion once again and seeing where people can, you know, how we can gauge them to see if there is some middle term that we can come to.
Yes, Councilor Linton.
I wanted to ask Mr. Spencer a question. You were talking about, I think you said there was like a survey or something taken with the different restaurants and how they felt about food pods. What was the results of that? Were they for or against, or?
We actually, it wasn't so much a survey. We actually did a couple of public workshops with mobile vendors and brick and mortar vendors over at the community center. And the brick and mortar at the time were very supportive of distance regulations, and in general, there are three things that the food trucks don't like that are in our regulations. They don't like to move. They would like to be there every night. They don't like to have self-contained items. They would like to have stuff that's set up on the ground, and they do not like the requirement to provide additional parking. So that was pretty much what came out of the original workshops. They really would like to be able to set up and then stay, which the so you do need to go home every night.
Okay, thank you.
What are you looking for from us tonight? Direction moving
Well,
forward?
just to see, I mean, it sounds, the way I would summarize, I'm hearing that there's interest in having some more discussion with maybe the more the people who are more vested in this specific topic. And so trying to organize some kind of a, yeah, we've used town hall a lot. I'm not sure that's the right term, but some kind of a discussion with that group. And kind of get the feedback from them, and then maybe see if there are some things that could be done to loosen or not loosen the requirements for mobile vendors or not. That, I mean, it sounds like some further discussion is interested in.
So would this be a separate, like, meeting hosted by the city, or are you just suggesting we put an item on the agenda and then allow people to make public comment and the council can
Well, I
decide?
mean, my initial suggestion was to put something on the agenda and have comment, but I think I'm hearing more that people would like to have more of an open discussion about it.
Okay. I saw Councilor McCarthy's hand.
Just kind of echoing on what you're saying. Personally, I feel ill-equipped to make a recommendation on the information before hearing input. I might want to say, yep, let's do 100 because I think it's a great idea, but might feel completely different after I hear the input without knowing more kind of what other people are feeling about it. So if it makes sense to do so that we can put it on the agenda, a 100-foot option, that seems fair to me, but I just don't feel comfortable making a recommendation for a particular reduction without hearing that input, if that makes sense.
Do you have to put a specific recommendation on there, or can you just say?
No, I mean, we could just advertise it as a, come and have a discussion about mobile food vending, and we could talk about the various restrictions and the things that we talked about tonight, and get public feedback on those. That's recommended.
I saw Councilor Brown first.
I'm also kind of more in favor of having more of a resolution. I think, and not that I don't want to have discussion, I think maybe it honestly would be best suited maybe in a work session to have a discussion and then just have the item on the agenda next. But if we have just a public work session, I feel like the interested parties or, restaurants for the most part, are going to want to defend their interests, and I think that's completely fair too. So I guess what I'm saying is I feel like a meeting like that would be more of an echo chamber versus I think maybe we should just have it as a work session, flush out, what we have right now in the books as an ordinance, or I guess what all the nuances are. And I guess maybe some proposed changes and how those things would look like, much like how we have it here, where you're presenting maps and showing, I think maybe just a community presentation, whoever can make that work session. Obviously, we want to invite them, we should. But I think that would be better than to just have it in an event just by itself, in my opinion.
We don't take any feedback during work session. So, I mean, is it going to be more conversation than we've already had tonight?
Well, we could have it during the ordinance when we end up having the
Yeah,
questions.
but I'm just saying, if you're going to have a work session, are you going to talk about the same things we talked about tonight?
I guess that's where the nomenclature of town hall comes into, if you want to call it a town hall versus a
Right,
work
then a
session.
work session. Councilor Kerman?
Yeah,
That's kind of what we did with
That's
the
kind of the direction I was leaning towards as well. I kind of have to agree with Counselor Barone on that is, you know, in the segment, the 1 hour segment that we would reserve for a work session, you know, I don't care what we call it, but, you know, use that hour prior to a meeting to bring people together and have, you know, let them have their say. You know, I mean, that is the true American way of doing things, is to say, you know, being able to have a say in what's going on. And so, you know, whether they come in and say that, you know, they don't like it or they do like it, you know, we need to hear both sides of the because they don't want it doesn't mean they're wrong, and then just because they want it doesn't mean they're wrong. So let's hear what everybody has to say about it, and then we can make an informed decision. You know, it may take more than one.
So we will, I mean, we can, in the next, won't be the next meeting, but maybe in the next 2 or 3 meetings, try to schedule that and have a public discussion about it and then see where we go from there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, we just brought this to you to have some
Information.
discussion about it.
Right.
We don't have a recommendation tonight.
Okay. I guess I would be opposed to labeling it as a work session.
Yeah.
Just because we've always used that time period for council conversation, deliberation with the administration. There's never been any public input. If you want to label it town hall or information meeting, I don't know what you want to call it, but listening session, yeah, something else.
Okay. I think
Council's looking at considering amending its code to make adjustments for mobile vendors, you know, something to that effect, and then encourage people to attend maybe through the chamber.
Okay.
Send it out to all the, you know, current restaurateurs and, you know, mobile food vendors in the region. I don't know if there's a network there that people can be connected with. Clint, you probably have a bunch of names or people that have stopped in to ask you questions.
Send those 10 people a day that way.
Right. I was just going to say.
Counselor
you get
Peterson
today.
was
Yeah.
asking.
Counselor Peterson.
So that would be one of my suggestions, is that, you know, when the information goes out about, okay, we're going to have a, you know, information sharing session, you know, with the community about this issue, that we let, because I mean, granted, we know that there's thousands of people tuning in on YouTube right now, hearing every single word we're saying. But if we could kind of summarize, all right, you know, on average, we're getting blank number of people a day that are asking us questions about this particular issue. And because I with setting up a cart, or that do pursue it, but then end up going in a different direction. It's like, what made you stop the process? You know, because those are failures to launch private business owners. And, you know, those are the people we need in our community. So it's like, what stopped the process? And then also those that were successful. Okay, what made that possible? Because I'd like to hear from them too, because they can use their successes and, you know, they might actually enjoy that networking opportunity themselves, just as a side effect of that. But if we can let them know what it is we already know and what it is we're hoping to hear from them, I think that might speed things up as far as like them just coming in from scratch.
Maybe Lily, you can send us the previous conversations that we had 2017 around this issue so we can refresh our memories.
Well, we can, what I think we can prepare some information, historical information, because there was one prior to 2017 that was really the establishment of the original ordinance, and then talk about why we did what we did in 17, and then, yeah, we can, and I see that as sort of, I mean, we could put that out when we in different ways with the agenda and other ways, but also kind of start off the discussion with a summary of this is where we've been,
Yeah.
this is why we're here tonight, and here's
those
the thing
who
we're talking about.
you know, fail to remember history are doomed to repeat it.
Right.
So I think it's a good learning lesson for all of us to kind of reflect on why this was important for us in the first place. I mean, there was a lot of good leaders that went before us that we should be respectful of and the decisions that they made. So we need to keep that in mind as well. Councilor Linton?
Can we also get the different types of restaurants, the types of food that they're serving? You know, like if it's Korean, Vietnamese, or whatever?
Well, I mean, I can't guarantee who's going to come, but we'll get the word out as broadly as we can.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, you got direction? Any other
Yes.
comments? Any public comment this evening? No? Okay. All right. IGA with the City of Pendleton provides CDBG funded small business grants to support businesses impacted by COVID. Mr. Smith?
Yeah. Mr. Morgan, were you ready to handle this?
Mr. Morgan?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this is really a clerical housekeeping type scenario. Ultimately, the City of Pendleton received some community development block grant funding to assist extremely small businesses that for one reason or another never received any COVID-related assistance from the federal or state government. It's been quite a slog to frankly try and find some of those small businesses. So the city received those funds as part of their application. It had bounced around through several different entities to be the host of those funds. Through that application, they listed the City of Hermiston, City of Milton Free Water, City of Umatilla as participants on the program, basically saying that businesses within those communities would also be eligible for funding. So we've been meeting approximately quarterly for the past several years, reviewing some of those grant applications. Now that that program is winding down and they're looking to close out the grant, they realized they didn't have an IGA in place with any of the other cities. And so this is just simply getting that in place, a very simplistic IGA, just simply stating that we would participate in the committee to help hand out those awards. And again, these are relatively small awards in the range of around $5,000 a piece. So far, there have been about 10 to 15 grants awarded, with about half of those probably going to some small businesses in the Hermiston and Umatilla area.
Did we have a formalized agreement in place beforehand?
No, that's what this is to do. So that was,
So the City of Pendleton skipped that step.
Okay. And we agreed at some point in a conversation to participate?
yes.
Okay.
Right, but we expected them to come to us
Okay.
with a
Got it.
formal agreement.
There really isn't much for us to agree to. It was simply they're administering these grant funds and advertising it to businesses within Hermiston.
All right. Is there any public comment around this IGA with the City of Pendleton? Okay, not seeing any. Can I get a motion to approve the IGA as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Councilor McCarthy, seconded by Councilor Harden, that we accept the IGA as presented. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously, 7-0. On to city committee and liaison reports. Any reports this evening? Yeah, Councilor Barone?
We had an EOTech meeting, and City Manager Smith, please fill in if I miss on any. I think you might have a little bit more information on the barn, so maybe I'll let you take care of that. We talked about the field expansion for the Heroes. The lights are up. It's looking pretty good. And they're still kind of building. Permits are being approved and things are moving forward. Operations update. We had Brian and Al present to us. We're gonna get an update on irrigation. We're still kind of wondering on water on that. We're gonna get an update on that. We're also going to start getting the financial report here soon, so that's pretty exciting. As far as that goes, there was a lot of events that happened at EOTech this last month. I'm remiss because I forgot my sheet, so I apologize, council, but there was quite a bit of events that went on this last month, obviously this month. So wish I could remember all of them, but there were a lot of different things that went on there. It's starting to look, operations are pretty healthy. There's things are falling more into place. Things are being scheduled more regularly. There's bigger and better events coming in. Specifically, the one I know is when Fantasma came down to Hermiston, those were promoters from out of town, from Walla Walla and from Seattle. It was the first time really working with those promoters, and they did a fantastic job in terms of like security. More of that here in the near future, but just great to see that our operations and management up there are working with different entities and trying to find different opportunities when they come by. Other than that, there was one day that really showcased EOTech and how busy things are. There was the UEC dinner that happened one night. At the same time, there was a lacrosse game that was going on. And I think at the same time, there was rodeo going on. And so that was kind of a really cool showcase of different things going on at different times. But I mean, that facility was being used to its max. And so hoping to see more of those events coming around, but it was cool. Really cool update. We're definitely past the COVID times where I'm gonna knock on wood. Things are starting to get booked a little bit more. Things are starting to look much more normal, much more fluid. And so, Mr. Smith, on the barns, you got anything on that?
Just, construction is moving very well up there. I think we're still on target to have those completed before the fair. And so it's been about a week since I was up there, but the framework was up for both the extension of the beef and the swine barn. And then they were going to bring in a bigger crew to start putting on the siding and the roof. So I have a plan to be up there tomorrow to check on that. So
One thing I haven't mentioned before to the committee or to the council, but we have Patrick Collins. He's our chairperson, and he's done a fantastic job being the chair, leading discussions. So I just want to give a shout out to him and to let you guys know we have a very good committee that's running over there at EOTech and under the leadership of Mr. Collins. So.
Very good. Another up and coming young man that could move into leadership in our community. So it's good to see him step into that role. Cinco de Mayo was a pretty big event up there as well. I don't know what the total number was, but I was up there Sunday night and it was busy.
I think I talked to Al around 4 o'clock. He said there had been at least 900 people that had come through the door. And yeah, ooh, that's awesome.
Council Lynn?
Oh, Faith-Based Advisory Committee. Stepping Stones came and they basically gave the same information tonight. And Officer Daniel, the code enforcement, asked about beautification, asked some of the churches they could help out in beautification. There's been taggings on some different, I don't know what you call those things, but anyway, there's tagging on them and wanting to know if they can get people to volunteer to help go and paint those over. And 3 churches that were there were interested in doing that. They're going to go back and talk to their people about helping to do that. And then Chaplain has bumper stickers for the Law Enforcement Week and ribbons too that we thought he might come tonight and pass those out. He hasn't passed, but whenever he gets here. I Love My City is May 18th. There's also going to be a recycle day 2. It's going to be at New Hope, New Hope Church. And that if you have anything that you want to recycle, you can take there. Sherman Williams will be giving haircuts, and I'm not exactly sure where they'll be doing free haircuts. Do you remember, Rod, where they're going to be doing the free haircuts?
That's for kids.
Yes.
Possibly homeless, I think.
it's at Sherwin-Williams.
That's
Yeah.
true, yeah, right
Is
there.
what?
At their building, the Sherwin-Williams
oh,
building.
okay.
Yeah, that's where it.
Okay, I do have Sherman Williams haircuts, all right, at their building. And then Agape House is doing a diaper drive, same day. So if anybody wants to donate diapers, they can take them to Agape House. Okay, that's all I have.
It's interesting, they also said something about that, I think she mentioned earlier that there's been 500 guests in the month of April. And also they've had 50 new guests which said they're just passing through kind of. So that's kind of an uptick on that. And also with the beautification projects, they're trying to get the faith-based involved with that, as mentioned, but also weed control and helping the elderly or disabled with some issues with weed control. Involved, plus Kiwanis and Walmart, and that's and talking about Oxbow Trail cleanup too, with the Bureau, working with the Bureau of Reclamation. So, anyhow, that's.
Right on. Other committees? Yeah.
We had Public Safety Committee tonight as well. We had a presentation from the Hermiston Police Department. 16 of their officers were here. It was a big wall of blue. It's kind of cool. Got to meet several brand new officers. Their people are all now back from DPSST, going through the field training process, which is extensive, but it ensures that at the end of the day that, our officers are well trained and able to do the job that we hired them to do. And it's a great thing to see. Gave us a rundown of some of the stats. Some are up, some are down. It's just like everything. There weren't any that were hugely scary, so that was a good sign. Their calls for service are up, but their officer initiated activities due to the calls for service being up means that things are, they're not able to stop as many cars and write as many tickets or, do things on their own. They're going from call to call as opposed to what they're being assigned. And then we also got a report from the court, gave their quarterly report. Numbers are well up in regards to, since they've taken over the misdemeanors. I believe she said 150, 154. So, a lot of cases that they're handling, and her words were they're excited at all the work that they get to do as opposed to what they've had to do in the past. So looking forward to additional things along those lines. So it's a lot of good work being done, and it's nice to see the fresh faces out there, and it's nice to see that the court is doing things. So I think we're definitely moving in the right direction with both places. So that's my report.
Right on. Chief, is the county, are you working with the county on some sort of deflection program, or what's the status on that? I think we have to stand it up by September. Is that accurate?
There was a meeting today that I participated in, a Zoom meeting. More information to come. I can't remember if it's September or if I don't remember the exact, but today's meeting was Judge Hill started it, and there was good interaction. There's some decisions that need to be made, whether or not Umatilla County will go it alone, Morrow County go it alone, or combine forces. And so hopefully that some of those decisions get made. We have another follow-up meeting just with Umatilla County folks, Sheriff's Office, our department, Pendleton, CCS, can't remember the others that are invited, the DA's office. So expect it to be a busy summer of figuring out what we want to do and how we're going to do it.
Yeah, I think at some point that would be a great, maybe work session conversation when that gets formalized this fall or whenever it happens.
Yeah, as soon as we kind of know where we're going, we'll definitely come and report back.
Perfect. How about other committee reports? Nope. I got a busy mayor's report. a lot of stuff going on. First of all, happy Mother's Day to the mothers yesterday. Yes. For you guys. You know, where would we be without our mothers, right? Wouldn't be here. Wouldn't be here. So thank you to our mothers. Hopefully you got an opportunity to relax and rest and enjoy the day yesterday. We had a ribbon cutting for the tactile map. That was exciting. Another addition at the Funland Park. For those of you that haven't seen it yet, it's a map for the visually impaired so that they can understand that celebration. Another fundraised community asset given to the community. Another resource for us and another addition to that park that just continues to amaze and impress. Brandon, at some point, are we applying for, you know, recognition for that park?
Still doing research on where we can get that recognition, but yes.
Okay. Pretty impressive, accessible park. We also did ribbon cutting last Saturday for the skate park. So for those of you that could make it, thank you for turning out for both of those. You know, the community's been asking for an improved skate park for a long time. And I don't know what, I said this on Saturday, I'm not sure we could even call what we had before a skate park. Looks like some metal thrown on the ground that kids could jump over or something, but this is an actual skate park and phase 1 of 3, 2 phases. Okay. Let's complete phase 2 because that'd be amazing. And so the kids, or I shouldn't say kids, there was lots of adults that were there enjoying the park as well. So it was, and some pretty impressive ones as well. We also had the League of Oregon Cities Spring Conference. Jackie and I went down there and attended that. It was in Klamath Falls. Very good information. If you haven't, well, hopefully you've been to the Hermiston Spring Conference a couple years ago, but if you haven't been to one of the spring conferences, you might put it on your calendar because it's really a smaller venue and there's a lot of great networking opportunities. It almost feels like more family affair because it's a smaller event. I think they had 150 attendees plus vendors, pushed it over 200. So, and it was a nice resort, great information. But I would encourage you to put that on your calendar if you can. Next year, I believe it's in North Bend.
I think so.
So another long drive if you're interested. Already mentioned this Saturday is I Love My City event, and it's from 9 to noon. So if you haven't signed up, can they sign up for participation at the Parks and Rec Department if they want to just
Sign up through there, and then if you're not affiliated with the church that's doing it, then they'll shoot them off to me, and then I'll help facilitate where you're going.
So go to ilovemycity.com, sign up, and they'll give you something to do. An amazing event, usually a huge turnout. And then on Sunday, they have a formal church service, and that'll be up at EOTech at what time? Do you remember? 10 o'clock? I think it's 10 o'clock. Usually several hundred people attend. It's usually really well attended. So it's like a community church service. Yes?
I love Hermiston.com.
I love Hermiston.com. Okay, so go there to sign up for Saturday's event. I did get to present, we did a proclamation for Fred Ziari, and I got to present it at his IRZ's 40th anniversary last week. Another well-attended event, so it's nice to recognize a business and an individual that's given so much to our community in the form of irrigated agriculture and the ability for us to conserve and spread across more acreage, the water, that limited water that we have, and the availability to increase production on those grounds around us. And so he's been a big champion for that, so it was nice to recognize him last week. I also went to the Communicares grant program last Thursday, I think it was. Hermiston gave out a bunch of resources to animal shelters mostly. So animal care providers, a lot of people that are trying to assist with stray animals and care for those animals. So I think they gave out $15,000 in grants to local, I think there was 4 agencies, but all the regional schools were there. That's a program that was originally created by the Schnitzers, and Jordan, the son, now is the administrator for that. But they give about $1 million across the state to various programs. So each of the schools are required to do some fundraising effort, and then they go through a grant proposal and a grant review, and then a grant approval process with these groups that come and apply. And I believe the Agape House or four separate grants from different communities, different high schools. So they did very well that night. Also wanted to remind everybody too about Spike Pearsall passed away, and his celebration of life is also on Saturday, and I believe it starts at 11 o'clock at EOTech. Is that accurate? Yeah. So if you're doing the I Love My City, you'll have to leave that early and go to the Spike Pearsall service up at EOTech. But he, you know, he was on the school board with me. He served on the fire district board for, I don't know, 40 years or something like that. So had a small business downtown, very involved in the fair for a lot of years. So very civic-minded individual. So if you're able to, Saturday also, the celebration of life for Spike Pearsall up at EOTech. And then lastly, I just want to say good luck next Tuesday for those of you that are running for election. 8 days. 8 more days for some of us. For others, it may be a little longer. So
Stafford Hansel Building, ballot box.
yeah. Yes, there's a ballot box at the Stafford Hansel Building. If you don't want to stick it in the mail, you can put it in there, and you can turn those in, I think, until 8 o'clock on election night. Or mail it in by the 21st, and it'll still be counted. Please vote, too. I would like to encourage everybody to turn out and vote as well. All right, other council reports? Yeah, Council Perman.
Hadn't heard anybody mention too much, but I did go to the Cinco de Mayo event. It was very well attended. It seemed to be a lot of fun. So
loud.
It was loud.
Very loud.
It was loud. But it was nice. It was rainy, but it was nice. The wind was blowing, but it was nice. Also in regards to again, National Police Week, you know, I said it during the public safety meeting. I can't. You know, I've been in law enforcement for 40 years. 4 garbage trucks, as somebody once pointed out to me. This week, the Umatilla County is having their portion of it, presentation and such, at Till Taylor Park at, I think it's 11:30. At 11:30, I will be speaking at that as well. So whether or not you want to laugh about that, but it is a very serious subject, and the fact that, you know, our law enforcement officers out there, they stand in the way of the bad things that happen. They're there for us, and you know, even when my time of carrying a badge is done, I will stand behind our law enforcement 100%, because, you know, they run in where others run away from, and so they deserve our support every moment of every day. And so to all of my brothers in blue and sisters in blue, I say thank you very much.
Other counselors? Yeah, Counselor Peters.
So, last meeting, Timothy Thomason from Equality Without Exception came and said hello to us. And he extends his thanks for the warm welcome that he received. I met with him and, some of the other organizers, to talk about the event that they're planning. And the parade that they're planning is going to be on EOTech grounds. And it sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. It sounds like, bounce houses, that kind of thing. They're really looking forward to it. Apparently, the group originally was started like within the Amazon family. They called it Glamazon. And then it kind of became a bigger group from there. And now it's about part of the community. It's going to be part of a fundraiser, that kind of thing. They're going to have a panel discussion. I agreed to be on it. I did not agree to be in the parade because, as you all know, I'm shy. That was a joke. Uh, I'm not shy, but I don't like parades, or at least being on them. So, but please keep your eyes open for that. It will. So whatever you're proud of, come be proud of it. As I said, great group, had a great conversation over a cup of tea, and so I'm looking forward to it. And again, Thomason he showed great gratitude about the how he was received when he came to talk. And so I wanted to just share that.
Others? Counselor Linton? Yes?
I just wanted to say, Lily, thank you very much for the card and everyone that signed it. Just pass along, please, that I said thank you very much.
Counselor McCarthy?
Thank you. Just to clarify, I don't think, Nancy, you said it's the Pride event that's happening on June 1st. You mentioned his name in the organization, but it's the Hermiston Pride event. And then I just want to mention, I think the last meeting, and I'm going to be attending tomorrow for the Civic Leadership Academy, is tomorrow night here at 5:30. And then also we have a budget meeting next week as well, Thursday here at 5:30.
Accurate. Thank you. That's next Thursday night?
Correct.
Yes. Did you ask Counselor Primer to run that for us?
I didn't.
Okay, Counselor Primer, can you
Apparently I can.
kick that event off for us?
Yeah.
And
Sure,
the
sorry, I could
following-
have said next week, yeah.
And the following city council meeting,
Okay.
because the mayor will be on vacation.
Noted.
It's a long time coming.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else from the council? Okay. No youth advisors here tonight. City manager.
Well, I think you picked up everything that I was going to highlight, so I don't have anything else to add.
Nothing.
But I really appreciate the skate park event, and yeah, I think that was great and great community asset. Parks and Rec always does the best.
Swags.
trinkets.
And there was a picture taken. Is that posted somewhere?
From the skate park?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. There was a
Finally, I
picture of
got
all
them
of us
today.
that were there. What's that?
I got the photos today, so
Okay. Awesome.
yeah, I'll
Be up
send
on
them
the
out.
Parks and Rec page. All right. Great event. Nothing else?
That's it.
All right. We are adjourned. About me.
Oh.